Hello, my name's Jessica Donovan and I am a naturopath specialising in kids' health. And today I want to talk to you about eczema. But before I do that, I'll just introduce myself. So I've been a naturopath for 20 years now. I graduated in 2000 and I've been specialising in kids' health since I became a mum myself, which is almost 13 years ago now. And so I work both one-on-one and in an online kind of membership, really helping to support mums with easy to implement and practical strategies that are going to boost their kids' health and nutrition. So that's what we're all about here at Natural Super Kids, and you can find us at naturalsuperkids.com and on Facebook and Instagram as Natural Super Kids as well. So we love to make things simple and practical and easy to implement, as I said. And when we're talking about eczema, really, I think the first thing for parents to understand is that there are other alternatives to the steroid creams. You know, if you take your child to a doctor or a pediatrician or a dermatologist with eczema, really the only kind of solution they have are the steroid creams. And yes, steroid creams are effective. They reduce inflammation in the skin locally, so they do help to reduce the symptoms of eczema. But I really want to talk about an internal approach, getting to the root cause of that skin inflammation in the first place. Because yes, eczema is a skin condition, it's inflammation of the skin, but it's due to an internal imbalance or an internal issue. And that's really what, as naturopaths, we kind of want to dig deeper and figure out, why is the skin getting so inflamed? What is that source of inflammation? And so, as I said, steroid creams can be helpful for getting symptoms under control, but we really don't want our kids to be relying on steroid creams to keep their eczema controlled. So eczema is prevalent and it's becoming more and more prevalent. Right now, 1 in 5 babies and young children develop eczema, and it's often the first in the allergy triad. Where eczema comes first, and then some allergies, food allergies or environmental allergies, and then the asthma later on down the track. Now, not all kids follow this kind of the triad, but eczema is very closely linked to food allergies and food intolerances. Nearly all kids with eczema have some sort of a food sensitivity, which we're going to be talking about as well. And so genetics play a big part when it comes to eczema. Nearly all the kids with eczema that I see, either mum or dad had eczema as a child or still have eczema, siblings have eczema, maybe cousins, aunties, uncles. So there's definitely that strong genetic link. But that doesn't mean that they are doomed and will have eczema forever. There's certainly things that we can do. When it comes to genetics, I like to think of genetics are the loaded gun. There's that higher prevalence there, but it's our diet and lifestyle that pull the trigger and sort of start to cause the symptoms. So there are things that we can do to, start to reduce eczema symptoms and even clear eczema symptoms completely, which is what I aim to do with the clients that I work with and the members that I work with. And so, as a naturopath, there's 2 main areas that I'm focusing on when I'm seeing kids with eczema. Number 1 is gut health, and there's quite a few different kind of aspects of gut health that we want to talk about and think about. And number 2 is immune regulation. So really the crux of it is gut health. And, sometimes it can be hard to kind of make that connection. My child's got red, inflamed, itchy skin. Why are we talking about gut health? Well, gut health is the foundation of, our kids' health in general, our health in general. It is it really is the foundation, the source of our health. When gut health is out of balance, it can lead to not just eczema, allergies, asthma, but also things like the neurodevelopmental conditions are linked with gut health. So kids on the spectrum, kids with ADHD, so gut health plays a part in mood and brain health and all of these things. So gut health is super important to all aspects of our kids' health. And when it comes to eczema, there's a few things that we want to be thinking about when it comes to our kids' gut health. Number 1 is diversity. So diversity of the microbiome is really important. We want lots of different species of healthy, good bacteria within the gut microbiome. And our Western diet and lifestyle has led to a depletion or a narrowing of this diversity of the gut microbiome. In fact, our gut microbiome is half as diverse as it used to be back in the hunter-gatherer days. And that's due to a whole heap of different elements in our diet and lifestyle. You know, things like sugar in the diet, high processed food in the diet, lack of fiber in the diet, antibiotics and other medications, and you know, the chemicals that we use within our environment are all leading to a depletion of that gut microbiome. It's really hard to get away from that. So I always think about gut as a continual work in progress. We need to keep repleting that healthy gut bacteria to kind of combat the damage that our Western diet and lifestyle is having. So to do that, we want to be thinking about exposure to a whole heap of microbes. And one of the best ways that we can do that with our children is expose them to the outdoor environment. So we want them to be outside as much as possible. They don't have to be outside all day, every day, but kids these days are spending so much more time indoors and not as much time outdoors. And just the nature of being outside is exposing kids to microbes, and that helps with that diversity of the gut microbiome. There's lots of other things as well that can improve the diversity of the gut microbiome. One of them is, of course, probiotic supplements. So putting the good bacteria and, you know, the well-researched strains that we know are beneficial into the gut to help improve that diversity. Now, you want to be working with a practitioner when it comes to this, because not all probiotics are created equal. You don't just want to grab any old probiotic off the shelf. Different strains have different benefits. So you really want to be making sure that you're using the right strain of probiotic or strains for your child's particular health concerns and health challenges. So probiotics are one kind of good way to get the good bugs in. Fermented foods and drinks are another good way. So things like sauerkraut or fermented carrots or coconut kefir, yogurt, all of these things provide healthy, good bacteria for our microbiome. So we can use a combination of those strategies. There's other things as well, but I'd be focusing on that outdoor play, plenty of outdoor play, probiotic capsules with the advice of a practitioner, and also fermented foods in the diet regularly, daily if you can, to really help to build up the diversity of the microbiome. The research tells us that kids with eczema have a lower or narrower diversity in their microbiome, so it's something we want to be thinking about. And then we also want to be thinking about dysbiosis. Now, this ties in with diversity. Dysbiosis is basically an imbalance of the good and bad bacteria within the gut. And when we have a low diversity of the good bacteria, that allows the pathogenic or the bad or the unhelpful bacteria to overgrow in the gut. And this leads to often a situation of leaky gut or intestinal permeability, which can lead to allergies and intolerances and sensitivities to a lot of different foods. So we want to be thinking about a healthy balance of good bacteria within our children's gut to prevent that leaky gut and dysbiosis and intestinal permeability. So we want to be thinking about those things. Now, there are nearly always food allergies, food intolerances, food sensitivities when it comes to kids with eczema. Now, food allergies are fairly easy and accurate in terms of the testing. When it comes to sensitivities and intolerances, it gets a little bit more complex. If your child has had allergy testing and something's come up on there or nothing's come up on there, there could definitely be some sensitivities and intolerances as well. So these are less severe reactions to food, but they can play a big role when it comes to the flare-ups and eczema in general. So when it comes to, uncovering what these particular food triggers might be, you do want to be working with a practitioner, because we're looking at the whole picture of a child. We're not just thinking about their skin. We're thinking about their bowel habits and their gut health and their immunity, and the types of foods that they're eating and their lifestyle. And all of these kinds of things give us clues as to potentially what the food triggers might be. That's the way I practice. I'm always looking for clues as to what the triggers might be, based on symptoms and things that might be going on for that child. So there can be a whole range of things, but dairy is by far the most common culprit when it comes to eczema. Lots of kids with eczema have problems with dairy. And so you may want to trial an elimination of dairy. Now, I would highly recommend working with a practitioner with this, because you want to make sure their nutrient needs are being met and you're not doing any unnecessary elimination. I'm all about eliminating the minimal amount of foods that we need to, rather than kind of all of the stress and the effort and the work that goes into food elimination being unnecessary. So we want to be thinking about dairy as a common culprit. And lactose is not the same as dairy. So lots of people will cut out lactose, go for lactose-free dairy. More often than not, it's the casein, the protein in the dairy, that's problematic for kids with eczema. And there are a couple of different types of casein when it comes to dairy. So there's A1 dairy protein and there's A2 dairy protein. And you've probably seen the A2 brand of dairy, of milk out there, but that is not the only A2 dairy. All goats and sheep's products, cheeses and yogurts and milks are A2 dairy, and also Jersey milk. So 100% Jersey milk from Jersey cows is actually A2 as well. So you don't have to go for the A2 brand. But the A2 dairy is more problematic, more inflammatory than the A1. The A1 dairy is more problematic, more inflammatory than the A2. So for some kids, switching over to an A2 dairy only diet can be enough in terms of clearing up their eczema, as well as some of these other strategies we're going to be talking about. But for other kids, they really do need to cut dairy out completely. So I just wanted to sort of make that, make that comparison so that that's clear. Again, working with a practitioner is really important, because it can become quite kind of confusing and overwhelming. And, where do I buy this kind of milk? And is this going to be enough for my child? So, working with a practitioner can just kind of speed things up a bit for you and make sure that you're on the right track. So dairy is the most common culprit when it comes to food sensitivities and intolerances, but things like wheat and gluten and eggs and corn and soy are all also very common culprits as well. So you want to be thinking about that. Doesn't mean you have to eliminate them all from your child's diet. That is a lot to ask, but this is where working with a practitioner can be really helpful, rather than kind of guessing your way through. So that's what we want to be thinking about gut health. Let's just kind of recap. We want to be thinking about diversity of the microbiome and improving that diversity. We want to be thinking about dysbiosis, or an imbalance of good and bad bacteria, and improving that balance. And the strategies to do that are the same as the strategies to improve that diversity. And we want to be thinking about food allergies, food intolerances, food sensitivities. So they're the main kind of points we want to be thinking about when it comes to gut health. Now, the second important thing that I'm always thinking about with kids with eczema is immune regulation. And so this ties into the microbiome, because when we've got a nice, healthy, well-balanced, diverse microbiome, our immune regulation is spot on. So this really helps with immune regulation. It's one of the key things we need to be thinking about when it comes to immune regulation, is that gut health. So let me explain immune regulation to you a little bit, because when we think about the immune system, often we start to think about colds and coughs and flus. But if we think about the immune system as a bit of a seesaw, and one arm of the seesaw is that defensive type of the part of the immune system, the one that defends us or fights against the bacteria, the virus, the microbe. So we're thinking about coughs and colds and infections. So we want that part of the immune system to be nice and strong and robust and high functioning. The other part of the immune system is the one that is involved in immune regulation. It's the part of our immune system that tells our body what to respond and react to and what not to respond and react to. In kids with eczema, this is a bit confused. This part of the immune system is what we want to be focusing on. It reacts to things that it shouldn't. You know, it might be pet dander, it might be dust, it might be dairy, it might be, wheat, it might be chemical, like food chemicals, natural chemicals within food. There's all kinds of ways that can present, but if we work on balancing out the immune system and making sure it's well regulated, then the immune system is much less likely over time to react and be so sensitive to these things. So that's why working on immune regulation is really important. The microbiome is very important when it comes to immune regulation. As I said, I just want to nail that point in. The other thing that's really important when it comes to immune regulation is vitamin D. Vitamin D is the vitamin that we get from the sun, and lots of kids are deficient in vitamin D. Even here in sunny Australia, we have a lot of vitamin D deficiency, and this leads to a confused immune system. Vitamin D is also very important in our skin integrity as well. So vitamin D is an important thing to be thinking about with your kids with eczema. We want to be getting kids outside. Another reason to get kids outside and exposed to that beautiful sunshine so that they can manufacture and process enough vitamin D for a well-functioning and regulated immune system. Now, this gets tricky because, we're told to slip, slop, slap. So sun safety is a big thing these days, and rightly so. But if we go overboard with that, then that can really limit the amount of vitamin D that kids can, that kids are exposed, sunshine that kids are exposed to, which affects their vitamin D levels. So I'm not saying, send your kids outside on a hot 30-degree day with no hat and no sunscreen or anything like that. But during the winter, we want to make sure our kids' skin is exposed to the sun, the midday sun, as much as possible. Obviously, in the warmer months, we can get outside with the kids, in the morning or the afternoon and get our vitamin D exposure that way. If you're concerned about vitamin D and your child's vitamin D levels, you can always look at supplementation. Again, a practitioner is a good person to be talking to about this, because vitamin D is not a water-soluble nutrient. We don't just get rid of any excess. So we can go overboard with vitamin D if we're supplementing too high. So you do want to get some professional help with this, but it is something that I would think about, particularly during the winter months, or if you live in cooler climates for your kids with eczema, is a vitamin D supplement to help with that immune system regulation. So just to summarize what we've talked about today, yes, eczema is an external skin condition, but it's a sign that there's an internal imbalance going on, and we want to address that internal imbalance. We want to be thinking about gut health, and within gut health, we want to be thinking of the diversity of the microbiome. We want to be thinking about dysbiosis or imbalance in the microbiome, and we want to be thinking of potential food triggers, sensitivities, intolerances. And the second thing we want to be thinking about is immune regulation, which comes down to two main things. One is the gut microbiome. Again, if you get anything from this session, think about your child's gut microbiome and how you can continue to kind of build that up. And the other thing we want to be thinking about when it comes to immune regulation is vitamin D levels. So as we've talked about a lot, gut health is important, not just in eczema, but in our kids' health in general. So I do have a little free gut health ebook that you can download. The link should be somewhere around this video. If you can't see it, you can come over to our naturalsuperkids.com website and you'll find it on there. So this is a free guide, and it really gives you some practical tips on everyday ways that you can be boosting your kids' gut health. And then I want to invite you over to our website over at naturalsuperkids.com. We have a whole heap of resources on eczema. We have a whole heap of resources on all kinds of topics when it comes to your child's health. I do a Facebook Live once a week, and we convert that into a blog post. So we have got a whole heap of information, free information on our Natural Super Kids site. We also have a membership, an online membership called the Natural Super Kids Club, where you get support and inspiration and ideas to raise healthy and happy kids. So we have lots of parents in the club that have kids with eczema or allergies or asthma, because we have a whole heap of recipes and meal plans and cheat sheets and videos and naturopathic support that can help you. So we do only open the club a couple of times a year. If we're closed, when you come over to our website, you can pop your name on the wait list, and you will be informed when we open the doors and are welcoming new members in again. So that's a place where you can get sort of ongoing support. But I really hope the information in this video was helpful for you today. And yeah, I'd love to see you over at our website or on our Facebook page or our Instagram page. We're very active there. Come and say hi. Thanks, guys. See ya.